ام تخوازن بزانه بن خباتا و لسر بنگها یاسایا جن آشتی و اولکاریه هاتیه دانین که ددما ترامپ ده اف یاسا درچوبو پیوندیا آشتی و اولکاریه جیهانه چه قاسی بجنان هیا بدیتناوه
Thank you so much for that question and for having us on. Thank you very much. When we think about women, peace, and security, we see this as a critical element of both U.S. national security and of our work to support international peace and security. This is something that the United States has supported in every forum, from the UN Security Council as an original sponsor of the Women, Peace, and Security Resolution, UN Security Council Resolution 1325, up until today, where, as you mentioned, President Trump signed in 2017 the Women, Peace, and Security Act, which made the United States the first country in the world to have national level legislation supporting women, peace, and security. And since we passed that act, we've gone on to develop a national strategy that the White House introduced last year. And then this summer, our 4 departments, the Department of State, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the Department of Homeland Security, promulgated implementation plans that allow us to make sure we are working at every level to implement women, peace, and security into our foreign policy and national security architecture. And this shows up in the way we do things, including how we engage, for instance, the intra-Afghan negotiations and the work that our office does to support that and to support women's participation in the negotiations in Afghanistan, to the work that we're doing to support, for instance, the justice and accountability for Yezidi women and others who were victims of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. So it covers a whole range of activities that the United States does, including also our humanitarian assistance and how we do peacekeeping and how we support peacekeeping.
بله خانم کوری از پاش ورم سر مثلا جنین کرد و هر وها جنین کردین ازدی جیکا حتی ها و چش بوان کریه دما پیشته هونه چش بوان بکن لیز نهات خوازم بزانبم جبر کود برنامه یا وده هیا هون زیدتر جنان بشداری سیاست دیپلوماسی آبوری و بریو برنه بکن مکانیزمای که چاوا ودانی جبوی هون وی کاری خواه ببنه سری
We use a range of tools. We have our diplomatic engagement, where when we're talking to countries, we make it clear that this is a priority for us, that they should have initiatives and policies of their own that support women's participation, whether it's in the economy or peace processes or political life. And we are very clear about that with our diplomatic partners. And then we also have programs that the State Department, the Department of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and other agencies around the U.S. government implement to support women's participation in a variety of ways. For instance, our new Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative is a 10-agency initiative that's a whole of government program that helps us to support women's economic participation from the grassroots all the way up to the C-suite. So we are really working across the whole range of economic empowerment issues with that one. And then we also use our partnerships. And in particular, we partner with the private sector and with civil society to help empower women's voices, to work with women's organizations at the grassroots level to address challenges, and to help bring additional resources beyond our own into this discussion.
بله. هناك ولات هناك هون بتايبتي جرينجية دنوان جبركو برسكريكا جنان لجلك ولا يعني لهر ولاتك تايبته بالروشاوي ولاتي هناك ولات هناك هون وان جداد كن وجرينجية كزيدة ترد دنوان
Absolutely. We obviously can't be all things to all people, and we can't address every single situation around the world. And so we do have to prioritize. We tend to look at those contexts where the critical issues of women's economic empowerment, women, peace and security, and things like countering violent extremism, how we can promote women's political leadership, and situations where there's extreme violence against women as criteria to help us target our efforts. We really look to maximize our efforts in countries also where there is an openness to change. For instance, one of the countries, or actually a group of countries that we're working with that
بله.
I wasn't really expecting to work with, is in the Middle East, where we've seen countries with very conservative cultures make some changes in recent years because they've recognized they need to empower the women of their countries to fully participate in their economies and more public life. And so they are making some important changes, and we really support that. But we're also looking in Africa at countries where development has lagged and where there's a tremendous opportunity to empower women to help create broader economic growth. And we're working with a number of
بله.
countries there on a variety of initiatives. So I would say that we look for our targets of opportunity where we have strong capability to partner with governments that are interested and want to work with us, as well as the hard cases where we have to deal with serious challenges of fragile and conflict affected states and highly vulnerable populations.
بله. تا بحثا روشلاتا ناوین کرا زیبه سر مثلا جنین کرد جی و حتی انها پشتگیریا جنین کرد به تایبتی کریه هندزانن جنین کرد نزدی به تایبتی قربانی سرکی شر داعشی بون حتی انها جی پیوستی آوان با آلیکاریا پروفیسیونل هیه هون لگل ری خستنین هریما کردستان کار دکن
We are doing a number of things to support this highly marginalized and terribly treated group of women and girls. And it's been a priority of mine since I was up at the UN and since the beginning of the civil war in Syria, as well as the rise of ISIS. We've seen that women and girls have been extremely terrorized and have been the most severe victims of the crisis that has cut across Iraq and Syria, both in terms of the refugees that have flown out of Syria and Iraq, as well as those who are still in those countries suffering from abuses from extremist groups. And then the challenges, even after the extremist groups have been defeated, the challenges don't go away for these women. They continue to face challenges within their own communities. And we are very conscious of the needs of these particular groups. We've worked with Nadia's initiative, we've worked with Yezidi House, and we've worked with a number of other groups to specifically assist the Yezidi women and girls and the communities as a whole, because the trauma affects the whole communities. And in order to help get women and girls able to return to these communities and reintegrated into them, you have to address the broader concerns of the communities. So we've been doing a lot of that through our assistance programs as well as through our diplomacy. And we found the Kurdistan regional government to be a very good partner in this regard.
بله. بله. جبوی پیدا کرنا یکسانیا درفتان دنابرا جنو میران ده درفتین پرورده نه درفتین آبوری و ای سیاسی هون گرینگی زیادتر ددنه کیجان آلی
So we have a very robust program of women's global development and prosperity, this major whole of government initiative that this administration launched almost 2 years ago now. So about 18 months, we've been working on this. It's a whole of government effort that focuses on how we can do several things, how we can help support women as entrepreneurs, help them to get the skills and training that they need to be able to participate in a range of activities and in a range of economic opportunities. And then we also are working on the enabling environment where women need access to capital and access to institutions, government institutions, and the ability to travel freely and the ability to own and inherit property freely in order to be able to fully participate in the economy. But one of the key areas where we're working very specifically is on the ability of women to work in the same jobs and sectors as men. This is one of our 5 focus areas, and it's a very good example of how we target our efforts. And we're doing that as in an effort to bring up the level of equality and access and opportunity for women and girls. And that's a critical piece for us. With women, peace, and security, it's more about making sure that women's voices are heard at all, because oftentimes when you're dealing with a conflict situation or a peace negotiation, women are often completely locked out of those tables. And so a lot of the work we do there is to help give women the skills and the opportunities to be able to speak up and make their voices heard. And it's about empowering them to have their voices heard in these contexts.